well. Human rights, I mean, clearly has been in major crisis in the last few months. But what has been really clear to me, coming down to these spaces, is how much human rights has very little to do with what happens in New York or Geneva, has very little to do with international law and conventions, and it has a lot to do with what it means to occupy a space, be together. And I just feel incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to learn so much from all of you. You have given me new ideas, you have inspired me, you've challenged me. I feel much richer from what you have done here in the occupation. And I think, as somebody's already said, at a moment where we know that people in Gaza have absolutely no access to food, never mind places to actually develop their ideas, to share all of their creativity, to expand their lives and their knowledges and think about their future.
Decolonize! 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 End apartheid! End apartheid! End apartheid! End apartheid!
I just dropped into the Goldsmiths building where the occupation's been going for a month, and talked to a couple of the students in there about what they're up to. And I hope people listen to what they have to say. So it's livening up a bit as everyone comes back. So you have to talk to me as if I'm a bit deaf because the microphones, I can't put it here. So yes, you're here cutting up photos and pictures.
Yes.
In the occupation room. What are you up to?
These are some pieces of information about Palestinian food. We're trying to think of food as an intimate product of, your personal identity, but the politics and the nature around you. And now we know there is starvation in Palestine, something that we didn't imagine would happen. And genocide goes beyond the physical erasure of bodies. It's also the erasure of people politically and culturally, and food is at the core of Palestinian culture. So I'm just spreading information about that, like making it, bringing some Palestinian literature around food. You literally realize that the plans that Palestinians create is not just something, it's not transactional, the relationship. You don't just go to the shop and you get that. There are songs you sing when you plant them and songs you sing when you crop them. And then there is villages named literally after the crops that they are famous for, and people named in certain ways. And wedding songs about food. So it's a really, really complex relationship. And I couldn't talk about food without talking about animals. So the animals that Palestinians left behind in 1948 in the Nakba. So there is a nice poem by Mahmoud Darwish, "Why did you leave the horse alone, my father?" And it's just in memory of all the animals left behind. But also to show the complicity of the UK in the destruction of the Palestinian environment. We had a black goat in Palestine. This one adapted really well to the Palestinian environment, really helped the environment. When the British mandate came and the Zionist militias started coming to Palestine, they started to say it's a black, dirty goat. It's a stinky goat. The disgusting milk, the Bedouin milk. And they brought a white goat that literally destroyed the environment, but it's a nice white goat. It's like a pet, it's very close to the people. It's like a friendly animal, not like this monstrous animal.
But the original goat worked within the environment.
Very good to the environment. This one is like catastrophic. What I'm doing, I'm spreading some literature, songs, music, and some information about the most important Palestinian plants and food.
And this is
with the memory in heart that people now in Gaza are starving.
And what's so particularly poignant to me is like when you dare to watch anything on screen now, it's like you see a Gaza that you cannot imagine it full of fruit and food. I think there's also a danger that some people would look and think, oh well, it's a bit of a desert anyway. But that's not true, is it?
It's absolutely not true. It's one of the main Zionist myths, which is that they made the desert blue and Palestine's the desert. Well, this is a colonial binary mentality. Having deserts is okay. They're very important for the ecosystem. But in reality, Palestine has been very famous for the oranges and for oranges now, because I'm thinking of the book I see, which is the land of sand oranges, the oranges that came from Jaffa and Haifa to Europe. But in general, it's a very diverse environment. There's the Mediterranean, the Dead Sea, the Red Sea. So you can tell there is much happening there. But what I'm thinking of now is that this Israel environmentally friendly myth that they are saying, it's all just to prevent Palestinians from accessing the right to return. So the Jewish National Congress, which is a charity here in the UK, there is a UK campaign against it. It says we need to stop it. It buys lands in Palestine and turns them into parks and like forests, with forests Palestine. But in reality, it just changes how Palestine looks like. My original village and the 5 surrounding villages to it are now a British park. Thank you to the British government involvement in the colonization of Palestine. What happens is, my grandpa says, the village looks like this, and that. And if you go now, it's been turned into a park. It doesn't look like what you remember.
So it's a park instead of a place with food that you grow.
Or a village.
Or a village.
It's just an erasure of Palestinian memory. But how it's sent to exported to the world, this image is like, look at us, we made the desert a park and a forest and etc. But in reality, just erasing your memory of Palestine and preventing you from accessing your right to return 194, which is granted by the UN to the Palestinian people. So no, they're not environmentally friendly. Indeed, they're trying to associate with Europe as much as possible. All the plants and the trees that they've forested in Palestine will not really suit the environment, so we lost a lot of the birds, especially the small Palestinian birds. They've been eaten by the larger birds that the Israelis brought. And now we have fires that very often because they're bringing European plants. So Israel's not
So the attack on
completely
Palestine
destroyed the ecological system in Palestine.
and that was before they started basically raising everything
Yes,
to the
from the
ground.
30s and stuff until like the Nakba 1948 was the big mass displacement event. And now there's no food sovereignty, all of that has also been damaged greatly, but also the loss of land has been gradual and it still continues until today.
This must be agony for you.
What is agony?
Agony. Just so much pain.
Yeah, I'm not.
Unbearable pain.
Absolutely, to the extent that I'm numb to a lot of things now.
Yeah. This is a beautiful way to connect.
Thank you.
And sometimes connecting with the past perhaps can help people have hope that there could be, this is what we should be aiming for the future. It's more than just not having Palestine occupied. It needs to be able to reclaim back its own food and songs and communities. Do you think that's possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Apartheid systems built on oppression cannot live long, and we can already see that in the practice, the violence beyond military need, the excessive use of violence that Israel is doing today. That's like an animal dying and trying to do that. So why not imagine that there is a possibility for everybody to live in peace? It's not about the Israelis, it's about just ending the colonial privileges and the apartheid system that exists now, and then everybody can live in like a democratic equal state. So it's about, it's not about the physical bodies of people there erasing the people or exiling the people. It's about the liberation for Palestine is about dismantling oppression systems, the colonial and the apartheid system, and that's it. And whoever accepts that will create like a beautiful life for everybody there together. So,
this is an art piece that someone from who has been here at the occupation a couple of times has lived here made.
They've made this amazing on this like round table. It's like the whole a war scene, but mixed as with the baby Jesus and Mary and chess. I love the chess pieces here. This is like an amazing artwork.
And then it's all on an oil barrel.
Wow, of course. When people say, it's nothing to do with climate or anything. How long has this been going on and what's behind it?
Well, on Wednesday, it will be our 1 month anniversary of the student occupation here at PSH.
That's a long time.
It is. But we've been very lucky, and it's been an open occupation so far. So that means we can come in and out. We have a rota, so people don't sleep here for more than a couple nights at a time. We're really trying to take care of everyone and make sure everyone like stays mentally relatively well.
Because it is a mental health issue, the whole thing, but to then also be participating in something like this. I mean, are students who are participating in this concerned about the impact on their studies, on their careers even?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we all know we're like taking a risk by being here. As much as we trust that senior management won't be like vindictive towards us, and they have been seemingly very understanding so far. And we understand that it's also kind of like it's a problem for other students who have lecture halls here, who want to come study, which after some communication with senior management is why we have decided to open up the labs for final year students, because they have labs here that they can't they have facilities here they can't access anywhere else, and this way they can graduate, and we've also asked for an extension for them.
So that's fantastic. You've done what you can to help the students, but at the same time, could you just say, which building this is and where we are?
Mm-hmm. So we're on the Goldsmiths campus. This is the Professor Stewart Hall building. So it is one of the largest buildings at Goldsmiths. It is the building with the largest lecture halls, which are the two lecture halls on the lower ground floor of PSH. And it is also a building that has some servers, and it has an editing room and some labs for photography.
So what's the disruption been to the campus that, I mean, certainly I as a student, I've had to move to a different place, but I get the general vibe that most people think this is a really, really good thing that you're doing, and proud that you're doing, and don't mind a bit of inconvenience. But for the university as a whole, what do you think they found most challenging about this month?
Yeah, well, originally we were only occupying the bottom floor, which is where we're sitting right now, which is the lower ground floor. So that just means the two large lecture halls, which means no lectures could take place here. And they were moved as far as I know, and there wasn't any issue with that. And then 2 weeks ago, we had decided to, because of the inaction of the management team, we decided to escalate, and we took the whole building. And yeah, so since then, there has been no lectures here until today, and no labs either until today, when we decided to open the labs. I mean, to be clear, we have never physically stopped anyone from coming in, and we told management from the start that we're very open to opening the labs for students, but it was in their view a health and security risk to open them until we negotiated today and made sure that happened.
That's interesting. So it was actually more from them making it, but also I imagine that was good for students, because it would have felt a bit like being a scab to come in here and use the building when you'd actually requested that we take this stand. And what is it exactly that you're asking senior management to do?
So we have a list of demands. We have, I mean, if people come to PSH, they'll see the banner with our first five original demands, which are for SMT to release a statement condemning the genocide in Gaza.
Can I just ask you about that one? It says release a new statement. Have they already released one? And if so, what did it say?
Yeah, so in response to student protests here on campus over the past couple of months, SMT released a statement about, I believe they call it the Middle East crisis, which we found wholly inadequate, and we felt that like there clearly is this, like, they need to center the Gazans who are the real victims of this conflict, and who quite frankly, of genocide, and they have refused to do that. But we are in talks now about hopefully a new statement being released, something that is more acceptable.
And then number two, what does that one say?
Yeah, number two is SMT must scrap the new protest guidelines. So these are guidelines that have been put in place after the initial protest for Palestine that Goldsmiths for Palestine organized. And some of I don't remember the exact wording right now, but they are clearly targeted at pro-Palestine protests. And because of these guidelines, a lot of Muslim students specifically feel like they're unable to come out and talk in support of Palestine.
So you feel that they're quite discriminatory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're clearly aimed at a specific kind of protest for Palestine. These are no guidelines that have ever been in place before. They just come out like as soon as we start protesting. It's very clear what's going on.
A bit like what the government's doing with all their new laws. And then number three, you've got what's that, the SMT, and the relevant entities must give us more clear commitments to a specific number of scholarship, academic fellowships and programs to be implemented. Can you say a little bit more about that? Who would these be for?
Yeah, so Goldsmiths actually has currently 2 master's scholarships for Palestinian students. And the fact that we have these scholarships is actually a result of an occupation which happened, I believe, in 2014, where that was one of the demands, and then they were renewed during the Gaza occupation in 2019, and they're still in place now. But we believe that, like, as the situation stands right now, this needs to be expanded, ideally with at least one undergraduate scholarship, because seen as all of the universities in Gaza are destroyed, like, you know, people who are looking to come here, there's a good chance they have nowhere else to go for university. So for them to be looking for a master's,
Do you think Britain is culpable in how are we connected to, in your personal opinion, of what's going on over there?
I mean, absolutely. British arms companies sell bombs to Israel. You know, I mean, even our universities, one of our other demands has investments in Israeli companies.
Pension funds, for example, that's a big one, isn't it? And you've got here, so that's number 4. We demand a written letter or statement recognising about the investments, because that's until this happened, I wasn't aware how much we sell to Israel, how much we invest, how important it is. And you can understand why certain parties are very keen to just not do anything. And then number 5, what's that one? Something to do with the IHRA definition.
Yeah. So the IHRA definition is a definition of anti-Semitism that was adopted during the pandemic by the academic board. But it was because it's a very controversial definition, because some institutions have called it like anti-academic freedom. It was decided they adopted it with the Jerusalem Declaration, which is another definition, and without the very controversial examples, I think most of which included Israel, or criticism of Israel as a form of anti-Semitism. But we find that it's still not enough, and we think the Jerusalem Declaration is sufficient as a definition of anti-Semitism, and on the grounds of academic freedom, we think it's unacceptable to have the IHRA definition in place.
Is it because if you criticise Israel as a country, that's seen as as anti-Semitic rather than actually being about the Jewish people, even though plenty of Jewish people criticise his current Israeli leadership. So that's 5 demands, and you're in conversation. And
We have 2 more now.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah,
2 more.
This is a thing that was decided before the last meeting was empty. Our 6th demand is about the transformation program, which is an ongoing program that has just been announced, where the equivalent of 130 full-time contracts will be made, like there will be forced redundancies equivalent to 130 full-time contracts, which means something like 300 members of staff will be out of a job, and this is decided because the university is in debt and because of pressure from the government to make the degrees here more employable. And I mean, we are wholly opposed to that, obviously.
Well, not having useful degrees, but it's not up to the government to tell you what's
Yeah.
what's going to be useful
Yeah.
for your career.
I mean, this government has been like very anti-humanities, anti-art, and Goldsmiths is fundamentally an arts and humanities university. So, you know, we think that.
And do you think senior management has just not been fighting the university's corner enough? Is that, you know, what can they do about this demand in reality?
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite frankly, like I'm 100% sure that budget cuts can be made in other places. There was a controversy a couple of years ago where the warden of this university was found to have spent something like £25,000 a year on taxis. So I think there is money to be found in other places, and I also think this transformation plan was also problematic because there has been no sort of investigation into the impacts on this on minority groups at the university. So, and as it is set to affect mostly racial minorities and women,
And
far more than any other group.
And how is that? Because I mean, obviously, losing that many lecturers is going to have a devastating effect on the quality of you know, you might have to scrap whole courses, which is going to reduce the income because there'd be less people. It doesn't seem to make much business sense. But how does it particularly cause additional harm to those who are the more vulnerable?
Well, I mean, as far as I understand it, a lot of the people who are on part-time contracts here are you know, people who are racialized or minoritized. So
Maybe have kids, have a lot of other responsibilities, hence the part-timeness.
yeah,
And are they the ones who are going to be prioritised for getting the job?
yeah, as far as I know, that's how it is. And there'll be a lot of merging of courses and sort of, I think it really is very disappointing because a lot of these lecturers who are here maybe for 1 day a week or a couple of days a week brought a lot of outside expertise, a lot of different perspectives to this university, and it really is like a huge loss.
And I suppose it would affect the more vulnerable students as well, because if you've got larger groups, there's less opportunity to to be sensitive to individual needs if you're just trying to kind of warehouse
Definitely.
students through the process. So that was, and is there one more you said?
Yeah, last demand is to keep this wall up or preserve it in some sort of way as a way of commemorating the occupation.
Yeah. And actually that's quite poignant, bearing in mind you're saying that the previous strides forwards in getting giving opportunities for Palestinian students to be here came through direct action. It wasn't just a wonderful gift, humanitarian gift. They had to be coerced to some extent. What's your feeling about how, in order to sometimes do the right thing morally, you have to take direct action?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I understand that this sort of thing inconveniences people, but I think we have to understand that this is not what we want, and also, if there is any inconvenience, it is because our peaceful protests are sort of, us standing and rallying in front of a building so far has not produced any results, and so we must do things that actually put pressure on the management team, and that necessarily includes pressure from the students, which means that they have to be unfortunately inconvenienced.
And have you felt supported by the other students and also the lecturers here?
I mean, honestly, it's been like absolutely amazing. We have people coming down all the time. We have teach-ins. We have lecturers coming. They make us hot food. Like the support has been overwhelming and really like incredible, and it's been the only reason that we can stand here and we can be here every day. And honestly, even the students who don't really know what's going on, who come to the entrance of the occupation, they look at the sign, we talk to them, and they've always been friendly. We know there are a couple of students on campus who are not very happy about this, but I mean, really the support has been overwhelming.
And only if you're comfortable to say, why does this matter to you? Why are you giving up your time and, a certain amount of risk in a way to your student life, because of you never know how the rule makers are going to play this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I'm here on student visas, so like, if any sort of disciplinary action happens, I'm sort of like, I'm not in a good position. But I really like, people say this is like the sort of I can't think of the word right now, but it is a world conflict where really like there is a right and wrong, and it's not complicated, and it's to stand up for people, and to be in solidarity with other people who are going through a genocide is, I think, like, the bare minimum. And, not everyone has to go as extreme as an occupation. I understand that everyone's, sort of ability is different, and then everyone has different time, sort of schedules. But because I'm a student, because I have I don't have that much to do, honestly. But I also don't have that many commitments, to my to family or things like that. I am free to do this, and I think if you have the ability to do something, you should. And very often, sort of larger movements are sparked because of student resistance and student action, and I think that is also a place, like, that is a thing that the university is important for. I think this is not just a fight for the government to recognize what's going on in Palestine, and not, I mean, obviously for the university to recognize it, but also for the university to take a clear political stance and to say, we are actually a progressive institution. We support, real, like, decolonial study. There's all these things at Goldsmiths. It's an anti-racist. We have decolonial studies, but really, like, what does it mean if we do not take a clear stance? And if we just sort of repeat what the government tells us to say.
So you're actually really helping Goldsmiths, I think. Some of them might not realise it, but because it is, like you say, that's their brand, and they're damaging their own brand through a lack of humanity.
I mean, that's why I came to Goldsmiths. I thought it was a radical institution where things are different than they are in wider society, maybe, or other universities. It's not like an elitist institution in the way that a lot of universities are. It's really like an open space for everyone, and I think the occupation has also been that. The teach-ins are all open to whoever wants to come in, whoever wants to learn. Essentially, anything that's sort of Palestine related or liberation movement related. They have, professors have come here, they've taught in the lecture halls. There's been film screenings as well. There was a really, really good film that I saw the other day here in Algier one that was there was a reenactment of a student occupation of the American University of Beirut, I think. There's all sorts of like very inspiring things happening, and like communal learning.
It's become like there's an opportunity to be taken by sort of professors and the students here to increase their knowledge and learning opportunity and to around that subject matter, and then for others to be able to come in and understand more, because they're not stuff we don't get that much of in our media. We don't get much education on this whole area, do we?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the computing department, so this is sort of things that I would normally have to like very intentionally seek out that I would never be able to learn at university, and I'm so grateful that this space is here and that like it's open and it's a real like community. It's great.
But I just wanted to urge other students to recognize the power that you have as individuals and even as small collectives. We are maybe a group of 10, but we recognize that this university and these departments and even the work that our staff is doing doesn't mean anything if there are no students to sit in the lectures, if there are no people to fill the studios, and no people to put out research projects and work about decolonization and liberation. And I want to urge all of the students here to use your voice. Like, it means so much, and it takes a little bit of extra effort, and your projects might be delayed, but it's completely worth it, and it's so, so, so important. It doesn't take a lot. We've kind of cross-referenced from things that the Goldsmiths MFA Fine Art has done, which is already really brilliant, and the work that Student Occupation is already doing. I'd just like to urge other people who are in departments like anthropology and fine art and all of these humanities that are so important to our educational systems that are already being defined.
Yeah, no, we took action. We decided to do something, which I think is like, I think that this is kind of what makes us different here at Goldsmiths. Like, we are here for a reason. Like, I'm a student here as well, and like I've been in the occupation, and we are here for a reason. Faced with like this existential crisis of what the current senior management team are doing to us and are doing to our institution, which, let me tell you, is like one of the last beacons of hope for the higher education in this entire country. We took this university back, and we will continue as students and as teachers and as workers as activists. We will continue taking this space back because it is rightfully ours. Show me what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
Free
Palestine!
Free
Palestine! We in this country, while we still have this little limited space, we have to use it. We really have to use it. We have to use it for the sake of the people of Palestine, to show them that we are here and we are talking about them and we are thinking about them and we are learning about them. And we also have to use it for ourselves to say we need to hold on to these kinds of spaces, these places for creating radical alternate communities. Because come the future, Palestine will be free, and hopefully all the rest of us will be too.